live in a world that fears silence, a world that constantly tells us, stay connected, stay busy, stay surrounded. But tell me, when was the last time you were truly alone, not lonely, not scrolling, escaping, just alone with your thoughts? Most people run from solitude because it feels uncomfortable. But what if I told you your greatest power hides in that silence? The world outside can only give you noise. The world inside, that's where you find direction. Every great thinker, every visionary, every person who truly succeeded, they all took time to disappear, to be alone, to build themselves in quiet. You see, success isn't about how many people know your name. It's about how well you know yourself. And that's why I'm here to tell you today, stay alone, not forever, but long enough to master yourself. Because once you do, no rejection, no failure, no crowd can ever control you again. You know, most people spend their whole lives trying to find themselves, but they look in all the wrong places. They chase relationships, careers, money, attention, hoping that somewhere along the way, they'll stumble into who they truly are. But let me tell you something, you don't find yourself in the crowd. You find yourself when the noise stops. You find yourself when there's no one else left to impress. You find yourself in silence. It's in those quiet, empty moments when you're sitting alone, when your phone's not buzzing, when no one's calling your name, that the truth starts to rise up inside you. At first, that silence feels uncomfortable. It feels strange, even painful, because you're face to face with your own thoughts. And for most people, that's scary. We spend so much time running from ourselves that when we're finally alone, it feels like being locked in a room with a stranger. But that stranger, that's you. That's the person you've been neglecting while trying to please the world. And solitude gives you the chance to meet them again. You see, we live in a time where everyone is busy showing who they are. Almost no one is actually knowing who they are. Everyone's performing, editing, posting, pretending, but very few people are pausing, reflecting, and asking, who am I when there's no one watching? What do I truly believe in? What drives me? What do I want my life to mean? When you choose to step back from the world, even for a while, you create space for those answers to appear. Solitude isn't punishment. It's not loneliness. It's clarity. It's where you start hearing that small voice inside, the one that's been whispering under all the noise, waiting for you to finally listen. And when you start listening, something powerful happens. You begin to see the patterns, the habits, the emotions, the reactions that have been ruling your life without your permission. You start noticing how often you react instead of respond, how often you chase validation instead of purpose, how often you say yes just to be accepted. Solitude exposes all of that, not to make you feel weak, but to make you aware, because you can't change what you won't confront. When you learn to sit with yourself, you stop needing constant stimulation, you stop fearing silence. You start to realize that peace isn't out there, it's in here. And the moment you find that peace within yourself, the world loses its power to disturb you. Most people never experience that level of awareness because they can't be alone long enough to find it. They distract themselves with noise, music, conversations, scrolling, gossip, entertainment. Anything to avoid facing what's inside. Real growth happens when you stop running. Let me tell you, there's a kind of power that comes from solitude, a confidence that doesn't depend on applause, a peace that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. It's the kind of strength that can't be taken away because it doesn't come from outside, it's built within. Think about it. Every transformation in your life started with a pause. Every big decision, every breakthrough, every shift in identity, it all began the moment you stopped and said, something has to change. That pause, that stillness, that solitude in action. That's the moment when your soul takes the microphone back from the noise of the world. Solitude isn't just about sitting alone in a room. It's about creating mental space. It's about saying, right now, I'm not going to run from myself. I'm going to listen. I'm going to understand. I'm going to face what hurts, and I'm going to learn what heals. It's about reconnecting with your purpose and your power. And when you start doing that, the quality of your life changes. You stop chasing everything. You stop forcing. You start attracting because you're no longer acting from fear. You're acting from alignment. You're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're expressing yourself. You stop asking, what do they want from me? And start asking, do I want for myself? That's the gift of solitude. It doesn't just show you who you are. It shows you who you've always been. Underneath the layers of opinions, expectations, and past mistakes, there's a version of you that's calm and powerful beyond measure. But you can't meet that version if you're always surrounded by noise. So take time to step back. Take time to be still. Go for that walk alone. Sit in that room without music. Turn off your phone. Feel that silence. Really feel it. Because in that silence, you'll begin to remember what the world made you forget your worth doesn't come from the crowd, your direction doesn't come from others, and your peace doesn't depend on approval. Solitude is where you stop trying to become and start remembering that you already are. And once you find yourself there, in that quiet, powerful space within, you'll never feel lost again. The real battlefield life is not out there, it's in here. It's in your mind. It's the conversations no one hears, the fears no one sees, the doubts you never say out loud. You conquer the world before you chase dreams or build success. You've got to face the one thing that shapes everything, your own mind. Because if you don't master it, it will master you. Most people wake up every day fighting the wrong enemy, They think their problem is their job, their boss, their circumstances, their past, or their relationships. But the truth is, their biggest enemy lives in their own head. It's the voice that whispers, you're not ready, you're not enough, you can't do it. It's that subtle voice that limits you before life ever does. And here's the thing, the world will always challenge you, but it's your mind that decides whether you rise or crumble. You can train your body, build skills, gain knowledge, but none of that matters if your mind is against you. You can have the best plan, the best strategy, the perfect timing, and still fail simply because you didn't believe you could win. The mind is the foundation of everything. It's your lens, your filter, your command center. It's where every decision, every emotion, every action begins. And if that foundation isn't strong, everything else will eventually fall apart. Mastering your mind doesn't mean silencing every negative thought. It means understanding that thoughts are just visitors. They come, they go, and they don't define you. When you're alone, your mind starts to talk louder, doesn't it? It reminds you of mistakes, plays old memories, brings up regrets, fears, insecurities. But that's the beauty of solitude. It gives you the chance to listen, observe, and take control of those thoughts instead of being ruled by them. Because the truth is, your thoughts are not commands. They're suggestions. You decide which ones to accept. Most people never realize that. They let every fearful thought become their reality. But when you begin to master your mind, you create distance between who you are and what you think. You start to say, that's not me. That's just a thought. And I don't have to believe it. That's where your freedom begins. Think about how much energy we waste fighting things that only exist in our imagination. We replay conversations that never happened, fear outcomes that never occur, worry about things that might not even matter in a week. And all of that drains your focus, your confidence, your power. Mastery begins when you take that energy back. When you stop letting fear write your story. When you choose to be intentional with what you allow into your mind. Because the quality of your life is the quality of your thoughts. You want to change your life, change the way you think. You want to be stronger. Start by thinking stronger. You want peace. Start by choosing thoughts that bring peace. You can't think like a victim and live like a leader. You can't think like you're stuck and move like you're free. It starts inside. But here's the truth. Mastering your mind isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about facing what's real without letting it define your future. It's about recognizing that your past pain doesn't have to become your permanent identity. You've got to learn how to use your mind as a tool, not a trap. You control it. It doesn't control you. When you master your mind, you stop reacting to life and start creating. You stop waiting and you start directing your energy toward what actually matters. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, is this trying to teach me? That one shift changes everything. Because when you see yourself as the creator, not the victim, life starts working for you, not against you. And listen, this isn't some theory. This is practice daily. It's when you wake up and your mind says, I can't, and you answer, watch me. It's when fear shows up and you use it as fuel. It's when failure hits and instead of breaking, you adapt, you grow, you evolve. Mastery is built moment by moment, choice by choice. You've got to train your mind like an athlete trains their body. Feed it better thoughts, exercise it through challenges, rest it through stillness, stretch it through learning. That's how you build mental resilience, because the world doesn't get easier. You get stronger, and that strength comes from within. So when life throws storms your way, and you won't be tossed around by emotions or doubt. You'll stand tall because your foundation is solid. You'll have clarity when others panic, calm when others break. That's what true mastery feels like. It's not that the noise disappears, it's that it no longer controls you. Once you reach that point, once your mind becomes your greatest ally instead of your greatest obstacle, there's no challenge too big, no dream too far, no failure too final. Because everything you need to conquer the world is already inside you. It just needed you to take control. There's a huge difference between being lonely and being alone. And most people don't know that. They think solitude means isolation, sadness. Solitude isn't emptiness, it's power. Loneliness is when you feel disconnected from others. Solitude is when you feel deeply connected to yourself. And that's the line that changes everything. See, loneliness drains you. It takes your energy because it's built on the belief that you're missing something, that you need someone, something, or somewhere else to feel complete. But solitude fills you up. It's not about absence. It's about presence, the presence of your own soul, your own strength, your own awareness. It's where you stop waiting for the world to make you whole and start realizing you already are. But we've been conditioned to fear being alone. A young age, we're told that being surrounded means we're loved, that being busy means we're successful, that being constantly connected means we're alive. Yet have you noticed how most people feel the most alone in a crowd? Surrounded by faces, yet unseen. Talking nonstop, yet unheard. That's because loneliness doesn't come from the absence of people. It comes from the absence of connection. And connection begins inside you, not outside. When you enter productive solitude, you're not running away from the world. You're recharging so you can re-enter it with purpose. You're stepping out of the noise so you can hear your own rhythm again. You're giving yourself space to think, to feel, to breathe. And in that space, you start to see what really matters. You start noticing the things you've been ignoring your dreams, your emotions, your inner guidance. That's the beauty of solitude. It's where wisdom lives. Now, let me tell you something powerful. Solitude is not always comfortable. It's not meant to be. Because when you're alone, there's nowhere to hide. The masks drop. The distractions fade. Everything you've been avoiding rises to the surface. The pain, the regret, the self-doubt. And that's where most people turn back. They confuse that discomfort with loneliness. But that's not loneliness, that's growth. That's your soul handing you the truth, saying, this is what's been holding you back. Are you ready to face it? When you choose to stay, when you sit with that discomfort instead of escaping it, something beautiful happens. Start to transform pain into power. You start to take responsibility for your emotions instead of blaming others for them. You begin to realize that you can generate peace on your own, without a phone, without a partner, without validation. That's productive solitude. It's the art of being with yourself without needing to escape yourself. You learn to enjoy your own company. You start doing things not because someone else expects it, but because it feels right for you. You stop performing and start living. You stop chasing approval and start listening to your intuition. And suddenly the time you once feared, the quiet evenings, the silent mornings become sacred. They become your time to rebuild, to reflect, to recharge. When you enter this kind of solitude, you no longer fear being alone. You crave it because you understand that silence is not your enemy. It's your sanctuary. It's where clarity lives, where creativity is born, where strength is restored. Think about it. Every great idea, every deep realization, every spiritual awakening came from a moment of silence, not noise. Solitude gives you access to that depth. And here's the thing. Once you've experienced that kind of solitude, you show up differently in the world. You no longer attach your happiness to other people's presence. You love without clinging. You give without expecting. You connect from fullness, not from need. You stop draining others with your emptiness because you've learned how to fill yourself. You stop asking people to complete you because you've completed yourself. That's why productive solitude is so powerful. It turns you into the kind of person who doesn't chase peace anymore because you are peace. It turns you into someone who can walk into a storm and still stand still inside. That's the difference between being lonely and being alone. Loneliness makes you needy. Solitude makes you strong. Loneliness makes you dependent. Solitude makes you free. Loneliness says, I need someone to make me feel whole. Solitude says, I am whole. And that's why I can love freely. So stop running from being alone. Stop treating solitude like punishment. The silence you fear is the space where your next breakthrough is waiting. Loneliness you feel is simply your soul asking for your own attention. And the moment you start listening, everything begins to shift. You'll realize you never needed more people around you. You just needed more of you with you. Because when you build a strong relationship with yourself, every other relationship in your life starts to improve. You become grounded, peaceful, and authentic. You no longer beg for love, you become love. So the next time you find yourself alone, rush to fill that silence. Don't reach for your phone. Don't drown it with noise. Sit with it. Let it speak. Let it teach. Because that silence, that sacred stillness holds everything you've been searching for out there. People talk about success like it's something that just appears, like one day you wake up and everything clicks. But what they don't see, they never show, is the process that happens behind the scenes, in silence, in solitude, in moments when no one's watching. Greatness doesn't grow under the spotlight, it grows in the shadows. It's born in the moments when you feel invisible. No one believes in you, when all you have left is your vision and your will to keep going. Every great person you've ever admired, the thinkers, the artists, the innovators, the leaders, they all had seasons of isolation. Times when the world didn't understand them, times when they questioned themselves, times when it felt easier to give up, but they didn't. They used that isolation not as punishment, but as preparation. Because solitude is where seeds of greatness take root. It's where you strip away distractions, expectations, and noise, and face the raw truth of who you are and what you're here to do. You can't build something extraordinary while constantly surrounded by noise and approval. The world's opinions are too loud, too confusing, too convincing. To create something powerful, you need space. Space to think, to imagine, to dream. Isolation gives you that space. It's in those quiet moments that clarity begins to form. You start asking yourself questions like, what am I really here for? What am I capable of? What would my life look like if I stopped living for everyone else's approval? And those answers, they don't come when the world is loud. They come when you finally get quiet. The truth is, isolation isn't a setback. It's an initiation. It's life's way of preparing you for the next level. The world may shut you out for a season, but that's not rejection. That's refinement. That's the universe saying, before I give you the power to lead, I need you to learn how to stand alone. Because if you can't handle being unseen, you'll never be ready to shine. If you can't stay strong when no one's clapping, you'll crumble when they stop. That's what isolation does. It strips away your dependence on validation. It forces you to dig deep and find something unshakable inside. You begin to realize that your purpose isn't built on applause. It's built on persistence. You learn how to motivate yourself when no one's watching. You learn how to stay consistent when no one's praising you. You learn how to believe in yourself even when the world doesn't. There's a sacred kind of power that grows in those moments when it's just you, when everyone else has gone quiet, when every distraction is gone, when it's only your thoughts, your doubts, your determination. That's where champions are built. Not on stage, not in front of crowds, but in those lonely hours of discipline and devotion that nobody ever sees. You want to know what greatness really looks like? It's waking up early when no one's checking. It's studying, practicing, creating. There's no guarantee of success. It's holding on to your vision when the results aren't showing up yet. It's saying, I'm not doing this for attention. I'm doing this because it's who I am. That's greatness. That's mastery. Isolation is the forge that shapes it, because in isolation, you meet the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. You meet your limits, and then you surpass them. You meet your fears, and then you face them. You meet your excuses, and then you silence them. Isolation is not your enemy. It's your teacher. It's the test that asks, do you really want this? And only those who can stand alone long enough to answer yes get to taste true success. You see, the world celebrates the outcome, the awards, the achievements, the fame, but isolation is the place where the outcome is born. It's the soil where resilience grows, where self-trust develops, where vision becomes unshakable. You can't skip it. You can't outsource it. You can't fake it. You have to walk through it. And it's in walking through it that you transform from ordinary to unstoppable. So if you're in a season of isolation right now, if it feels like no one understands you, like your efforts are invisible, like you're walking alone, don't despise it. Don't rush to escape it. This is your incubation period. This is where your strength is being built in silence. The noise will return one day. The recognition will come. But when it does, you'll be ready, because solitude taught you what no applause ever could. And when you come out of that isolation differently, you'll speak with conviction. You'll move with purpose. You won't need to prove yourself anymore, because you'll know yourself. And that knowing, that deep, grounded confidence, that's the fruit of isolation. Don't fear being alone. Don't mistake silence for stagnation. Growth doesn't make noise. Seeds don't make sound when they break through the soil, but they're growing stronger every day. That's what's happening to you right now, quietly, powerfully. There comes a point in your life when you have to stop depending on others to make you feel whole. Because as long as your peace, your confidence, your happiness rely on something or someone outside of you, you're building your foundation on sand. And the moment the world shifts, the moment someone leaves, something fails, or life doesn't go your way, everything inside you collapses. That's what happens when your emotional stability depends on external things. You can't live a powerful life if you're constantly needing validation, needing approval, needing someone to make you feel seen. That kind of dependence is a quiet present. It keeps you small. It keeps you fearful. It keeps you chasing instead of creating. And the truth is, no one can free you from that. Only you can. That freedom starts when you decide to build your life from the inside out, not from the outside in. See, inner independence isn't about cutting people off or pretending you don't need anyone. It's not arrogance or isolation. It's strength. It's knowing that you can love deeply, care fully, connect sincerely. But you don't need anyone to complete you. You're already complete. You're not looking for someone to fill your emptiness. You're sharing your fullness. That's the difference between dependence and independence. One drains, the other expands. When you depend on others for your sense of worth, you'll always live in fear of losing them, fear of disappointing them, fear of not being enough for them. You start making choices not based on truth, but on survival. Back your voice, your dreams, your authenticity just to keep people close. And every time you do that, you lose a piece of yourself. That's not love. That's fear disguised as connection. But when you start building inner independence, everything changes. You begin to operate from a place of strength, not need. You stop begging for energy and start generating it. You stop waiting for motivation and start creating momentum. You stop looking for permission and start giving yourself the authority to live your own truth. That's what it means to be free. To know that you are the source, not the result. And this kind of freedom doesn't come easy. It comes from doing the hard work, the quiet work. It comes from sitting with yourself, from confronting your insecurities, from asking, why do I seek validation? What am I afraid of losing? It's not easy to face those questions. But once you do, you start reclaiming your power. You realize that you don't need to be chosen to feel valuable. You don't need to be praised to feel capable. And you don't need to be understood to keep walking your path. That's inner independence. When your emotions stop being controlled by circumstances, when your peace isn't fragile, when your energy doesn't rise and fall based on who texts you back or who approves of you. When you can stand in a storm and say, I've got me. I trust me. I'm not breaking this time. That's not ego. That's mastery. That's self-leadership. Because here's the truth. If you don't lead your mind, the world will. If you don't define your values, someone else will. If you don't decide who you are, the noise around you will keep deciding for you. And that's why solitude is so important, because it gives you the space to take back that control. It allows you to become emotionally independent before you try to be socially successful. Think about this. People spend years learning how to earn money, but almost no one learns how to generate their own peace. We think peace is found in relationships, in achievements and approval. But peace isn't something you find. It's something you build. You build it by saying, no matter what happens, I refuse to give my emotional power away. You build it by learning to enjoy your own company, speaking kindly to yourself, by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you do that, you strengthen your foundation. And when you build that foundation, you start to glow differently. You walk into rooms and you don't need attention. Your energy speaks for you. You love people, but you don't cling to them. You support others, but you don't lose yourself in the process. You give generously because you're full, not because you're empty. And that energy is magnetic. People will feel it because nothing is more powerful than a human being who doesn't need validation to feel alive. Inner independence doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start choosing what deserves your energy, what deserves your attention, what deserves your heart. It means you stop settling for relationships, jobs, or situations that drain you because you've learned how to fill yourself first. It means you stop chasing peace and start embodying it. And once you reach that point, when you no longer rely on the world to make you feel secure, when your happiness no longer swings on someone else's behavior, your identity no longer bends to fit expectations, you become unstoppable because there's nothing left for the world to take from you. You already have everything you need within you. The purpose of solitude isn't to escape the world. It's to understand it better. It's not about running from people or responsibilities or noise. It's about stepping away long enough to return with clarity, strength, and purpose. Because once you've mastered yourself, once you've faced your own thoughts, your own fears, your own truth, the world no longer controls you. You control how you show up in it. When you come back from that space of stillness, you're different. You don't see things the same way anymore. The noise that used to pull you and doesn't affect you the same way, the opinions, the drama, the expectations, they lose their power over you because you've learned something the world can't teach: how to stand in peace, even when everything around you is chaos. That's what true strength is. It's not about building walls, it's about building roots. You've gone deep within yourself, you've discovered who you are, and now when you walk back into the world, you don't bend so easily. You're grounded, you're centered, you're aware, and because of that, you lead differently. You love differently. You love differently. Most people go through life reacting to the world. They get up, they go to work, they deal with people. They chase what they think they want, and yet deep down they're exhausted because they're living on autopilot. But the person who's been through solitude doesn't live that way anymore. You become intentional. You move with purpose. You speak with awareness. Every action comes from alignment, not pressure. You're no longer driven by fear of missing out. You're guided by the peace of knowing who you are. And that changes everything. Because when you know who you are, the world can no longer define you. You stop chasing validation because you're already validated by your own truth. You stop comparing because you found your lane. You stop needing to prove anything because your existence itself is proof of your worth. That's the transformation solitude creates. Now, when you return to the world, it's not to hide your light, it's to share it. Because real growth isn't just about becoming stronger for yourself. It's about becoming strong enough to lift others. You've mastered yourself. You become a source of stability for others who are lost in the noise. You become a reminder that peace is possible, that clarity is within reach, that they can find strength inside themselves too. You'll notice this shift. Your presence starts to speak louder than your words. People feel safe around you because you're no longer chasing something from them. You're full, you're whole, and that wholeness is magnetic. It inspires, it heals. That's the gift of coming back wiser. You don't need to force change, you become the change. But here's the thing, you can't share light you haven't found. You can't give what you haven't built. That's why solitude comes first. You go inward, you face your darkness, you find your truth, and when you return, you bring that truth with you, and the world needs that truth. The world needs people who are calm in the middle of chaos, grounded when everything feels unstable, passionate when everyone's angry, kind when everyone's cynical. That's how your personal mastery becomes collective transformation, because when you've been through your own silence, you start to understand others better. You stop judging so quickly because you know what it feels like to struggle in silence. You stop competing so desperately because you know there's no need. There's space for everyone to grow. You become more patient, more empathetic, more intentional. You start building bridges instead of walls. That's what returning wiser means. It's using your growth, not just for your success, but for humanity's progress. And it's not about being perfect. It's not about pretending you're always centered. Life will still throw storms your way, but now you handle them differently. You don't panic. You pause. You don't react from fear. You respond from strength. You don't look for control. You choose alignment. That's what wisdom does. It doesn't erase challenges. It changes how you move through them. When you've mastered solitude, you realize that success isn't about what you gain. It's about what you give. It's about walking back into the world, not as someone who needs to prove themselves, but as someone who's ready to serve. You stop living for applause and start living for impact. You stop chasing attention and start giving attention to the people, the causes, the moments that truly matter. And when you start living that way, you feel something powerful: freedom. The kind of freedom that no money, no status, no relationship can give you. It's the freedom of knowing that no matter what happens out there, you're unshaken here. That's true success. That's true mastery. So when you come back from solitude, come back different. Come back grounded, not guarded. Come back peaceful, passive. Come back stronger, not harder. Because the world doesn't need more people who are loud. It needs more people who are aligned. It doesn't need more noise. It needs more presence. It doesn't need more followers. It needs more leaders who know who they are.